So, hello and welcome. Happy New Year. I hope it's going well for you so far. My name is Andy Gilbert and I'm going to be your host for the next 60 minutes. So thank you for giving up an hour of your time. I'd like to make this really purposeful so you get lots of productive outcomes from it. So what I'm going to invite you to do is, I'll tell you what we'll do, just whilst we wait for a few more people to arrive, I'm just going to give you a little bit of an overview about Go Mad thinking. And the first thing I should explain, in case you're not aware of this, is that Go M.A.D stands for Go Make a Difference. Okay, Go Make a Difference is a rallying call for change, for improvement, for doing something differently. It is not about staying the same. So this is actually our 25th anniversary year. And in fact, actually on today in my LinkedIn profile, and by the way, feel free to connect with me, it came up as today is my anniversary. It's actually not, it was last week, but 25 years doing this around the world. We've worked in 44 countries now, I believe. Essentially what we do is we help people to have light bulb moments. Little light bulb moments, medium size, or really big ones like that. And this is about helping them to think differently so that they can improve their productivity and performance at a personal level. And we help teams and leaders to help their team to think more effectively, right? And then we glue that all together to help organizations do that. So that's a bit about what we do. We have loads of digital technology, but what I'm here really to focus on today is helping you to understand the core components of two of our models. And it's going to be fun and it's going to be interactive. Our purpose, as you can see there, is to make the world a brighter place by being the catalyst for 1,000 humanitarian projects. So if that also floats your boat, let me know and we can do something together. Right, so just a quick little check, a little poll here, just so I can identify how much experience we've got on the webinar today. I'm going to share a poll with you just to find out your current level of knowledge. So if you could answer that question, please. How much experience have you got about the Go Mad methodology? And it's okay, I'm expecting most people to have very little or none at all. Okay, let me just see who we've got on. Got quite a few people. I know a couple of those names that we've got on there. So, okay, let's just, oh, everybody, hey, we're fast today. Good group, fab. Right, 100% participation. And we have got 33% none at all, 20% have been referred by a colleague, another 20-something% I've attended a Go Mad webinar. Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. Let's end that and let's just talk about what we're going to focus on today. So this is it. It's in 4 parts. And what I'm going to focus on first is giving you 3 ways of how to think bigger. Then we're going to look at how to think better. And I've got a great probability exercise to get you involved in there. So you will need pen and paper because I'm going to show you a slide to copy some things down, do a little self-assessment with. And then we're going to look at kind of like thinking bolder and the sort of things that we could do to think bolder. As ever, if you've been on one of these before, and we'll actually find out if you have or not, there'll be questions. I will interact with you and ask you some questions. And we'll even have maybe a prize or 2 at the end. So the more interactivity, the better. So Q&A, if you've got a question for me at any point today, please type it in. I operate on 2 screens here. So my main screen in front of me, I can just look down now and there's a blank box where the questions come in. And on my right-hand side, I've got a screen where I can see the chat. And today, Jade, my right-hand person, suffering at home, is there. I say suffering, she was diagnosed with COVID yesterday. So get well soon, Jade, and safe journey there. Jade will chat to you about things and prompt you on some things that I share with you. So here we go. Which of these functions describes you best? Let me just go back to that poll and current role. This is just so I can pitch it at the right level with the examples that I share with you. So just please let me know where we are. And when at least 80% have completed, I will end that poll. And here we go. Right, I'm going to end that. Right, I'm going to share the results with you so you can see this. We have, as you can see here, a lot of executive leaders and functional leaders on today, a few project and team leaders, and some consultants as well. Okay, so I'm gonna make sure that my examples fit that. So let's start with thinking bigger. Thinking bigger. Here we go. I'm going to share with you the first model, and this model is about how we think and what goes on inside our head to make it really effective or ineffective. So this model has 4 parts, and it's known as the thinking effectiveness model. So the first thing that we do, well, I say first thing, one of the things that we do to make sense of the world is inside our head, we ask questions. Now, the quality of those questions is really important in terms of how effectively we think. So let's just do a little exercise here. I'm going to ask you a question. We're going to do a 1-minute thinking exercise. I'll debrief it, and then we'll do a second 1-minute thinking exercise. So if you're ready, get ready to type in the chat box when I share with you this 1-minute exercise. Let's imagine that we're going to do a fundraising event for charity. Okay, charity of your choice, doesn't matter. And we have set ourselves the very modest goal of just raising £100 for charity. Okay, in the next 60 seconds, please can you type in the chat function as many possible ways there are to raise £100 for charity. Okay, your time starts now. Okay, so how could we possibly raise £100 for charity? Okay, I'll read them out as they come in here. Okay, so we've got cake sale was the first in there from Naomi. Thank you very much for starting off the roll there. Ask friends to donate £5 each. Okay, keep them going. Sponsorship, cutting hair, sponsored cutting hair, walking, asking people, sponsored walk. Just give them it, says Steve. Sponsored bike ride, a raffle, a tombola, lottery. Ask people to contribute £10 each. Sponsored car washing, sports events. Sit in a bath of baked beans for an hour, says Michael. Okay, sports day, running, book sale, more cakes. Sponsorship. Okay, hang on. That is exactly 1 minute. New Year competition, music concert, sell tickets. Stop. Right, here we go. So that was based on one question. The question was, how could we possibly raise £100 for charity? Now, I'm going to change the question. So I just want you to notice in your heads, right? But again, it's 1 minute of chat to make this interactive. Here's the question. Let's imagine that we now want to raise a greater amount for charity. How could we possibly raise £100,000 for charity? Okay, so we've multiplied it by 1,000, £100,000 for charity. Possible ways to do it. Your time starts now. Okay. See what we've, oh, sorry, let's go back. Okay, what have we got here? Publicize on social networks, social media to connect with potential donors, involve others, very good key principle, get a professional sponsor, work with various groups, okay? Television, create a game show, okay? Ask people for larger donations, work with various groups, put bids in for funds, target richer donors. That's from Steve. He was going to give £100 to the last one. He's not going to give £100 to this one. So who are the richer donors? What else could we possibly do? Oh, we've got a charity single, okay? Involve sports people, rock stars. Okay, right. So I'm going to stop at that point now. Okay, now, let me ask you the question here. You can stop there. Rough and expensive items, says Michael. Now, all of those things that you've just said in the last minute to raise £100,000, they would also raise £100, wouldn't they? But let's think back to that first exercise when the question was, how could we raise £100? Not all the answers to that question, in fact, very few of them would raise £100,000, would they? So if we want to think bigger, better, and bolder, maybe asking better questions could help us to think bigger. And the level that we set our goals could also do that. If we set our goals to jump 6 feet, we're unlikely to jump 10 feet. If we set our goals at £100, we're unlikely to achieve £100,000. So let's just think about the quality of the questions that we ask ourselves and the level of the questions that we ask ourselves. So when we think inside our head, we talk to ourselves and we think in pictures. Let's simplify it that. But the talking bit is either in statements or questions. So let me just give you an example here. And in fact, actually in the chat, just put Q for question or S for statement. Notice what goes through your head here, okay? I'm going to say the word to you, and the word is holiday. What goes through your head in relation to the word holiday? What are you just thinking about now? Is it a question, a statement? Steve, there's a lot of Steves on today, actually. We've got a Q, an S, a Q, an S, a Q, an S. This is a total mix. So I've just said one word like holidays, and you're noticing what goes through your head as a statement. Now, the quality of that question will impact it, but the level of that statement, so it could be a goal. So if I now say to you, what do you want to achieve this year in 2022? I'm giving you the question and you can think. The answer that you give will either help you or hinder your progress towards that goal. Right, let's look at it. I want to move through this quite quickly. But we don't just think in statements or questions. We also remember things. So when I say holiday to you, you might remember a previous holiday. But you also might imagine going on holiday. So at the start of the year, it's quite easy to imagine a year, but we can also remember. So what's strongest for you at the moment as you're thinking? Is it easier to remember last year, put an R for recall, or is it easier for you to imagine this year that's coming? R or I? Let's see where we are today. Oh, this is outstanding. I'm not going to say what it is yet, but everybody so far is saying it's easier to imagine this year. So if we want to think bigger, better, bolder, let's just think at what level do we want to imagine this year? Because if we're imagining and we make a statement about what we're imagining, what we're in fact doing here is creating a goal. Well, let's just look quickly at the links between these four components, okay? And these components, remember, will either help or hinder you. So when we ask questions about the past, let me give you an example here. Who could possibly help me? I'm thinking about people in the past that I've met. Who do I know that could possibly help me? Because I know them, it's got to have been in the past, okay? If I go, maybe, what possible obstacles might there be in me achieving my goal? I'm starting to imagine things. So I'm either building my awareness or my understanding. And this is the purpose of these questions. If we now go to the statements and say, actually, let's make a statement. I believe that I'm a good writer. Okay, I've written 20 books. It's in my memory. I've sold 300,000 books or so. So I have a memory, and I now have a belief based on that memory. And that can become a belief statement. Now, that could be helpful. I've just written, actually on Sunday at 9 o'clock, I just finished writing my last book. All right. But that was really helped by a lot of memories of the 20 other books that I've written. But if I want to now put a goal into the future, right, I imagine what it is that I want, and I make a statement about it. This is an expectation of something that I want to happen in the future. It could be a short-term goal, it could be an annual goal, it could be a very big aspiration. So it could be a vision statement, okay? It could be a really clear, smart goal about what I want to achieve. But if I want to think bigger, better, and bolder, I want to make sure that those statements have got absolute clarity, don't I? Right? And depending on my level of belief, which is based on the past, right, I will set my goals accordingly. So, just quick summary for you here. Okay, we've covered 4 key things in the way that we think. When we think either helpful or hindering, right, we're doing a mixture of these 4 things. So, as a takeaway from this first section, just think about yourself for this year in terms of thinking bigger, better, and bolder. If you could only pick one of these things to help you move forward, what would it be? Would it be number 1, you want to imagine bigger? Would it be number 2, you're actually going to state bigger goals? Or would it be number 3, about asking better questions to yourself? Let's just see what the thing is. Put it in the chat, and let's see what the themes are that are emerging today. I'm going to give you a chance to put those in. Oh, there's a definite theme coming here. 2 themes. It's pretty even Stevens. It's between 1 and 3. Imagine bigger or ask better questions. Now, imagining bigger might then help you to make the statement. I get it. It might come in that order there. But certainly imagining bigger seems to be the trend, with asking better questions coming in a close second place there. Now, if you've got any questions for me at this point about anything about that model, about how to use it, how to apply it, please don't put it in chat. Please put it in questions for me. And I'll answer some questions either now or as we go through the session. But at the end, I promise you that whatever questions you put in there, you'll get an answer from me. We'll create some time at the end of the session for that. And this is a model that basically you can use to help yourself on a daily basis. Just kickstart it with going, what's the most helpful question I could be asking myself today? What's the most helpful question I could be asking myself at the start of this year? Okay. What's a helpful goal that I want to state? What's the most helpful thing for me to imagine? So what I'm doing is I'm actually asking questions about my thinking. I'm thinking about the thoughts that go through my head. Okay. Questions just come in from Charlotte. How do you use that model if team members have negative recollections of the past? Really great question, Charlotte. Thank you. And very appropriate, particularly kind of when thinking about pandemic. If a person has a hindering thought about the past, what you can do is one of 2 things. You can either ask them for a different thought, go to an alternative memory, or you ask them a helpful question about that, and that is about taking the learning from it. So I might say, last year, 2021 was not such a good year for a lot of people, as was the year before. But if you were to look back at that, Charlotte, what helpful learning could you take from that last year? Or when we did that project and we weren't successful in achieving it, and I know that might be in your minds at the moment, what helpful learning could we take from that past that would be helpful for us going forward? So there's some options. I hope that answers your question, Charlotte. Okay. Right, let's move on. We're going to do a section now on thinking better. This is where you need a blank sheet of paper, okay, and a pen. I'm going to share a different framework for you. This is the one for which I'm probably best well known. This is the one that I wrote up in my book, Go Mad, The Art of Making a Difference. We did a piece of research going back to 1998 and 1999, where I spent with a team of 7 other people about 4,000 hours researching the answer to a question. And the question was this: what is the simplest way of explaining the success process that people naturally use when making a difference? That's the MAD bit. So simple, naturally use, success process. Problem there, I was asking the wrong question. There was never going to be a linear process that came out of this that says you do A, then B, then C, and then D, success guaranteed. So what did come out of it was 7 key principles. 7 key principles that people were naturally applying when they went from A to B. So if you imagine that we're on a journey and we're going to go from point A to point B, along that journey, we're going to do some thinking. And that thinking might be helpful or hindering there. But actually, if we consciously apply 7 key principles during that journey, it will dramatically improve our probability of success. So I'm going to share those key principles with you, and we're going to fill in a blank diagram. So if you want to scribble 7 circles down on a piece of paper, 3 at the bottom, 3 in the middle, and 1 at the top, just give you a chance to do that. Then what we're going to do is we're going to do a little self-assessment exercise as we go through this. And I'm going to give you a little box diagram to copy down next. And I'm going to explain principle 1, and then we're going to do a self-assessment. Then I'll explain principle 2, and we'll do assessment. So we'll come back to that. Here's the assessment diagram. So 2 big boxes, just put those down, box A and box B. And in box A, I'm going to invite you to write a work-related example, okay? Something that you want to achieve, accomplish, make a difference about, change, or improve. Absolutely anything, make it work-related. And then as a contrast, in box B, just make a note of something that is non-work related. Now, I know at this time of the year, 10 days ago, everybody was writing down New Year's resolutions, weren't they? Okay, so it might be a New Year's resolution if you haven't broken it already, okay, or something that you want to change, improve, accomplish outside of work. And we'll work with these 2 examples as we go through this exercise. Then you'll see that there's a row of 6 boxes, 1 to 6. Those represent the first 6 key principles in the framework that I just showed you. Right, and what we're going to do is we're going to put an assessment score in that as we go through this. I'll explain how this all works as we go through, and then there'll be a little calculation that we do at the end. You can get a calculator, get your phone out, and we'll do that. And I'll explain it as we go through. Right, so if you're ready, can you just put a yes into the chat box? And then that means that you've put 2 examples on there, and we're ready to go. Once I get the first few yeses coming through, fab. Okay, let's go. So let's go back to this framework. This is what's called the results framework, the Go Make a Difference results framework. Okay, and here we go. Principle number 1 is about having a reason why. Remember, if you're on this journey and you want to go from point A to point B, you've got to have a reason, haven't you, to get to point B. But here's the thing, how strong is your reason in comparison to everything else you've got going on in your life? Only got 24 hours a day, okay? How do you choose to spend those, and what do you choose to spend it on? That's the key thing in order to assess your priorities. There's 100 things you could do. They are not all equal in comparison. So it could be a towards motivation where you passionately believe you know what you want, right? And you can see it. That's it. You know what you want and you're going towards something. Or it might be that you're stuck in a rut, that for whatever reason, you want to escape from something. That might be an away from motivation. They can be equally as strong, particularly to start with. So here we go. Have a look at what you've written in box A. Let's just get my little laser pointer on here. Okay. So in box 1, I'm going to invite you to assess how strong your desire is. This is about motivation. It's about energy. This is your fuel source, right? But it's in comparison to everything else. So in order to do a really fair assessment, I want you to be really honest. I'm not going to ask you to share your individual scores in these boxes with me, okay? Right, that's for you. But perhaps be really honest and a little bit tough with yourself. If what you've written in box A is the most important thing in the world for you, bar nothing, A, you probably wouldn't be on this session, okay? You'd be doing it. There is nothing more important. That is a 10. If, on the other hand, you're not bothered about it and you've only written something in that box because Andy's asked you to, that's a 1. So be really honest. In comparison with everything else going on in your life, how strong is your reason to do that? Okay. Now, let's go to box B. Think about the non-work related example. Again, self-assessment. How strong is my desire, my motivation, my reason why to achieve that in comparison to everything else I've got on in my life? And again, just write that in box 1. Okay, so just make a little note, RW, reason why, that's what box 1 is about. Okay, so let's move on to box 2, principle 2. Principle 2 is about having clarity. We touched on this earlier. This is about having a clearly defined goal. If you want to go from point A to point B, you need to know where point B is, don't you? You need absolute laser-like clarity about that. This is about like the taxi driver. What's the first question a taxi driver says to you? Where do you want to go? If you say, I don't know, mate, they can't do that. If you're a bit vague and you go, not Scandinavia, you go, what do you mean not Scandinavia? Where do you want to go? Because a lot of people say what they don't want rather than what they do want. So goals should always focus on what you do want. And of course, at this time of year, people have made a lot of mistakes saying, I don't want to weigh this amount, okay? I want to lose weight. But of course, if you look down at the scales is never going to say you've lost weight. It tells you what you are, right? So focus on what you want to see. Now, there are 4 different types of goal, okay? You can have a vision, right? You can have an umbrella goal, which is like a project breakdown. You can have a clear SMART goal for tasks. Or you could have a qualitative goal for emotions, confidence, feelings, team morale, relationships. 4 different types of goals to have in your toolkit. And most managers, by the way, and leaders don't have those 4 in their toolkit. And that's why a lot of things in organizations don't get the clarity that they absolutely need. But for now, all you need to know is, have you got a clearly defined goal? Let's do the assessment. So box 2 for box A. If you have a clearly defined goal somewhere, not necessarily on this piece of paper, that is with a date, with an absolute measure of success, right? That could be absolutely audited as if you were looking at a scales, and it's written down somewhere, you deserve a 10. If, on the other hand, you've only got a vague, dreamy notion with no end date and no real specific measure, you obviously need to adjust your score a lot. So just put that in box 2. Again, be honest with yourself as you look at box B, your non-work related example. To what extent have you got a clear, absolutely concise, crystal clear goal with an end date that's absolutely measurable? Or is it a bit of a woolly, wishy-washy thing? And you decide, box 2. Okay. If you're ready to move on, just say goal in the chat, and I know you're ready to move on. The reason I said goal is if you say yes, I can't tell because I said yes on the last one. Great, we've got a goal in for me in first. Steve, Michael, Simon, thank you very much. Great, let's move on. Now, for this, we're going to move on to box 4. I'll explain why. This is where we're going, box 4. Okay. Why have you jumped box 3, Andy? Well, when I wrote the first book, The Art of Making a Difference, I had to put the principles in a sequence, and I just went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But I actually put them along the bottom of the row. So when you read my books, that box 3 here says something different. But when I teach the methodology, and when I produce this book, Going Mad About Coaching, which is a lot more about the frameworks, you can see some diagrams in there, right? I had to understand what the links and the relationships were, and it's easier to teach the Go Mad methodology by going to principle 4. Why is that? Well, let me share with you. Self-belief is the head stuff. It's the stuff we were talking about earlier, that helpful and hindering. Thoughts that go through your mind, the questions, the statements, the beliefs, the memories, the imagination. It's about what you think and say about yourself, what you think and say about the other world. It's about the confidence that you have in the goals. This is what we call the achievability line. How achievable do you think that goal is? Do you believe it is in your head? Okay, so this basically gives us the head stuff. The reason why gives us the heart stuff. So we're talking about hearts and minds. You need enough desire and you need enough confidence or belief. Okay, so that's what we're talking, and this forms a triangle. And when we're teaching thinking, coaching skills, we talk about the internal triangle. You can't see what's in your head, right? Others can't, you can, okay? Can't see what's in your heart's desire, and nobody will know what your goal is unless you share it. So you're holding it internally at the moment. So let's do the assessment. Remember, we're in box 4. Okay, we'll come on to box 3 in a second. So as you think about the difference that you say you want to make, that's a work-related example, okay? As you think inside your head about it, what is your level of belief? Scale of 1 to 10 that it's achievable. Imagine this is a seesaw, right? Okay, and if you've got lots of belief, it might be really high. If you've got loads of doubt, the seesaw of self-belief might swing in the other direction. And this can sometimes happen at work. Just when somebody gives you that piece of information, we've got to cut your budget. At that moment, when you hear those words, sometimes your self-belief can plummet, can't it? When you think, well, how am I going to achieve it then? Or you know that I was chatting to a client yesterday, coaching a CTO, and he said, the guy that was due to start today has actually said he's taken another job. His self-belief had plummeted, therefore, because of lack of resources. Okay, so it can flip like that. So scale of 1 to 10. 10 is total confidence, no doubt. The other is total doubt. Okay, you don't need a 10 out of 10, by the way. You know, as long as you've got more belief than doubt. Then let's do the same one on your non-work related. Okay, to what extent do you believe that you've got what it takes, the knowledge, the skills, the experience to do it? Right, just assess it there. Okay, if you've done those 2 assessments, please type in SB, self-belief, and I know that we're ready to go on. Thank you very much. Let us go on. Okay, so we're back to the missing key principle 3. So in the words of the Spice Girls, we know what we want, clearly defined goal, what we really, really want, that's our strong reason why. Instead of going zigger zigger, we've gone, and I'll check my self-belief if it's achievable. That's the internal triangle. You can only get it on very rare European import labels. Okay, bit of girl power there for you. So we know what we want, what we really, really want. We've checked our level of self-belief. Now what we've got to do is actually 3 things. You'll see there that I've written 2 down, and that is possibilities and priorities. And that's because I had a rule to make this simple as I could and just use a couple of words. But the 3 things we're really going to assess is, to what extent have you thought wider and deeper, Lots of possibilities, explored areas like the possible risks, the obstacles, the people that could help, how to gain buy-in, how to overcome tasks, resources. So there's 10 possibility areas to think about we found from the research. And then you've prioritized them and you've said those things are the most important in relation to my goal. Okay, this is what we call the importance link here. And then if we looked in your diary or planner, we would see time planned out. So here we go. Box 3, 3 P's, just write the 3 P's under it. Possibilities, priorities, planning the time. If you have done all 3 of those things in relation to that area that you said that you want to achieve or improve in work, you've thought widely and deeply, you've prioritized and you put time in your planner for the most important things, give yourself a high score. If you've only thought of a few ideas, there's only maybe not even priorities sorted, and you haven't put any time in your diary, you're obviously going to have to adjust your score a lot lower. So do that for A and do that for B. Okay. When you're ready, please put in the chat PPP, the 3 Ps. Then I know that we're ready to continue. Catherine, you were first. Thank you very much. Quickly followed. Let's move on. Now, you know, I said about those 10 possibility areas, 4 of them, right, were actually to do with involving others. And they are reasons to involve others, people to involve. How could I possibly communicate my goal to those others? How could I get their buy-in and influence them? So this whole area of involving others, right, is the most lateral thinking, the widest concept. And in most organizations, people think of 3 things quicker than anybody else. When I do exercises and I say, think of categories of people to involve, right? Well, I tell you what, we'll do it now. Just write in the chat box, who can I possibly involve? 3 categories that come to mind. Who might they be? Let's have a little chat away and we'll see who could you possibly involve now. Michael, you got it first. Family, friends and colleagues, not necessarily in that order. Friends, family, colleagues, those are the top 3, okay? And the reason is because in our recalled memory, they're the closest to us. Who do I live with? Who do I work with? Who do I socialize with? And those will come in. But what we want to do here to help you think bigger and better is to think wider than that. So who in the whole wide world could possibly add value? Okay, dear Google, other search engines are available. Okay, who in the world could possibly help me? Just a few billion people. But what about people that no longer lived? You know, some of my heroes are people like Walt Disney for imagination, Einstein because of his questions, Leonardo da Vinci for being the most all-round Renaissance man there. They're all dead, but they've left legacies and ways of doing things. So, you know, we can start to think more creatively than we would normally do. So here we go. In box 5, okay, involving others, think about your work-related example. If you are currently involving as many people that can add value to helping you and you've secured their commitment to buy-in, give yourself a high score. If on the other hand, you've only asked 1 or 2 people or not really thought of that many, and you haven't got their buy-in, adjust your score accordingly. That's in box 5. Okay, just be honest with yourself. When you've done that, can you please just type in IO for involve others? Key principle. Thank you, Steve. You were the first this time. Let us move on. Here we go. We're now to PR, personal responsibility. This is at the heart, the center of this framework. Remember, we're on this journey full of helpful and hindering thoughts as we go through, getting some clarity about where we go, involving others as we want. This really is about you making a choice and saying, actually, am I prepared to go on that journey? That journey is down to me, whether it be achieving a work-related goal, right, or staying in a job, or applying for a job, or whether it be completing a project. there's got to be somebody that's accountable. And is this your goal or is this somebody else's goal? The opposite of personal responsibility is blame. And I've probably worked in over 350 organizations around the world. And what's quite interesting is when you start talking about culture, sometimes people say, oh, we don't have a blame culture here. In which case I say, fantastic, what do you have instead then? Nobody goes, we have a personal responsibility culture. They go, we don't have a blame culture. It's the same as saying, I don't want to lose weight. I've got to lose weight. I've got to lose weight. You're focusing on what you want. But a personal responsibility culture is where a person goes, yep, that was down to me. I made a mistake. But sometimes they don't do that because they imagine the fear, false expectations appearing real. They imagine something's going to happen to them. Okay. But really effective in our organization here, going back, I love it when people take responsibility. They just go, Andy, I've made a mistake. I can't shoot them. I can't go on a witch hunt for them. I go, great. What did you learn from it? Okay, how can we ensure it doesn't happen again? Let's move on. Right, so personal responsibility. Not for now, maybe another webinar, but you can discover what these lines here mean that link personal responsibility to everything else is about choices. Choices of who to involve, choices about how much time spending, etc. But just know that personal responsibility is at the heart of everything. So, in box 6, final one. To what extent are you currently, right now, taking personal responsibility for doing the things that need to be done, for making the decisions, the choices, spending the time on the stuff there? That's all down to you, as opposed to blaming the weather, pandemic, government, traffic, other people. Okay, so be honest with yourself. You'll get the most from this exercise. Box 6, to what extent are you currently taking personal responsibility? Think about that for A, and think about it for B as well. You know how the game goes now, recalled memory. I'm going to ask you to type in PR. Who's going to be fastest finger first once we're ready to move on? In the chat, and it is Ian, closely followed by Michael. Great, let's go. So we've covered 6 key principles. Don't do any adding up of calculations at the moment because we're not going to do that. Okay, I just want to share with you what the 7th key principle is. And that is about taking action and measuring results. Thinking is fab, but on its own, it's not going to get you there. Thinking needs to translate into actions. Actions needs to translate into results. The first of these 6 key principles are help you to think and plan. Then you can take action and you can measure the results if you're taking responsibility for defining a goal. Okay, if you haven't got a clear goal, you're never going to be able to measure results. Okay, so those are the 7 key principles. Right, now, let us go back. Please get your phone out or a calculator. What I'm going to invite you to do is to multiply the number that you have put in each of these 6 boxes by the next number. Let me give you an example. Right, if you put in, I'll tell you what, if you put a 4 in box number 1, you multiply that by what you put in box number 2, which could be, say, a 6, multiplied by the number there. So you're multiplying 6 digits together, okay? And if you do that, just write that down. And then what we're going to do is we're going to calculate your probability of success. So you're doing 2 separate sums here. By the way, the minimum number to multiply by is a 1. If you multiply it by a 0, it will come out as 0. So make sure the minimum score is a 1 in any box. And multiply those together. When you've done those 2 calculations, just put them in the chat for me, right? And put A equals that and B equals whatever it is. And we'll see if there's a pattern and a trend for whether or not the work number is a bigger or lower number than the non-work related issue. So once I start seeing those numbers appear, I'll wait a while and then I'm going to debrief you on what that number means. And we're going to turn it into a percentage probability. So when you've done the two calculations, please put them. And I'm not gonna name names and embarrass anybody on that. Thank you, Michael. You were the first to put it in. Michael W. There's a few Michaels on today. Okay. Thank you, Sarah. Catherine, you've just put A in, Catherine. Have you got a B score as well? Great. Okay. Rachel, you're next. You got the highest. Ian, okay, that's great. Okay, I've got enough coming in. Fab. So do the calculations. This is how we're going to convert it to a percentage probability. If you had put a 10 in every box, 10 multiplied by 10 to the power of 6 equals 1 million. Okay, that is the highest number you could have scored. So your score is out of 1 million. If we turn that into a percentage, what we do is we count 4 digits, not 4 digits off the right hand side of a million, and it will come out as 100. 1, 2, 3, 4 leaves you 100. That's where you put the decimal point. Okay, so if you've got a 6-figure digit, okay, and I'm looking in there, and Ian, B for you is, and Rachel, B is for you as well, right? You're going to put the decimal point 4 from there, and it will give you a number. Okay, so a 6-digit number like that will look at 12.6%. If you've got less than a 6-digit number, for example, a 4-digit number, still count 4 in from the right, but put the decimal point right at the front of it. Okay, so it's 0.that%. Okay, so if you've got the digits in the right place, you might have a low number, you might have a high number. That's fine. What do these numbers mean? It means there's good news and there's bad news at this point, or not so good news, I would say, actually. Firstly, this is a very quick and crude calculation, okay? But it's going to calculate the probability of assessing success if you do nothing else. If you take no further action, that is a crude probability. And the reason for this is there's a multiplier effect. Now, the not so good news is you might not be looking at a number that is as high as you want. In fact, I can tell, looking down all the numbers that I can see, scanning down, the highest number today is by Steve C, who has got 36%. That is the highest number. We've got other people that have got 22.5, 16.5, right? But 32.5 if you do nothing else. There are some people on here today, and don't feel bad or whatever because have scored less than 1%. You're not on your own. I'm seeing people that have scored quite a lot less than 1%, right? All that means is, and here's the good news, you've just got some instant feedback, right? And if you look at the boxes here, what we can say now is it's unlikely that you're going to achieve your goal with that score. But you know what? Here's the good news. You can use this model as a diagnostic or an analytical tool on any current project or any past project to see why it hasn't worked. Is your reason why? Does that need boosting? We can help you get to a 2 in clarity of goal, right, within about 5 minutes, right? We could do some possibility thinking and help you prioritize and build a plan. Just doing those 2 things is probably going to improve your self-belief. But we could do some work around looking at who else in the whole wide world could add value in some way. How could you contact them, influence, gain buy-in, right? We could look at the choices that you have and what you could do to take greater responsibility. So the good news is you can dramatically improve your score. However, the one thing that is more difficult to do is if you've given yourself a 1 in box number 1. That basically means you're not bothered. In comparison to everything else, your reason why is not as strong as it could be. Here's my tip. Park it. Go and find something to make a difference about that you're more bothered about. Okay. Right. What questions have you got? If you've got any questions about those 7 key principles, anything to do that's going through your mind at the moment that you want to ask me about, please put that in the questions, not the chat. Okay. And I'll read those in front of me. So here's a little slide, just as we wait for any questions to come through. This is what we call thinking better the Go Mad way. 7 key principles that we've touched on. And what you could actually do is ask yourself questions about these 7 key principles to improve the probability of success. So if you want to, you could call that coaching. You could coach yourself, you could coach others, you could coach an individual, you could coach a team. And that's essentially what the content of this book is about. Okay, so what am I seeking to achieve? My goal, my strongest reason why. Let's start with those 2. Then we could look at how confident I am, that internal triangle we touched on. Then we could do some possibility thinking together, right? And once we've done those possibility thinking, we work out the most important things in relation to our goal. We could then say, which key stakeholders do we need or do we choose to involve there? Okay, how can we get their buy-in and influence them? Tell you what, let's sort out the key tasks. All of those go into our plan. Let's sort out who's responsible for what is our plan, when are we going to review it, let's go forward. And that's it. So what we essentially do in organizations is teach people to use that for their own personal role, to teach their teams to improve performance, and we introduce 30, 60 and 90-day challenges so that people can improve their performance going forward. So let's move on. 10 minutes, 3 things I want to cover with you. Thinking better if you have a problem. Okay, I have a pack of cards. This is my pack of coaching cards. Got a little framework on that. What's interesting actually about these cards is, I'll just show you. If you look at them, you'll see that on the back, it's got the framework, but it's got a blob in different places. And that is because every card is different and they have questions on them. This is the Jack of Diamonds card that I'm showing you at the moment, okay? So it says, turn a problem statement into a helpful question. Remember that thinking effectiveness framework for earlier? Once you've turned it into a question, so instead of, I can't write my book, I haven't got enough time, I don't know what to do, hindering statements, I go, how could I possibly, or who could possibly, or what could I possibly do to ensure my book is written on time? Answer it 20 times, and I guarantee that there'll be a breakthrough in thinking there. So that's my top tip there. So if we want to think bolder now, let's look at other techniques that we could use. We've got the 5 of diamonds. Let's find my 5 of diamonds here. Okay. What if is a great technique. If you want to think bolder, okay, what if there were no barriers? Okay, what if I had to find a solution by the end of the year? And what you do is you suspend your logic, right, for just 5 minutes or so, 10 minutes max, if you're working with a group, right, and you explore the possibilities there. Okay? So, 4 of diamonds. All you do here is you take a basic question and you change one word. So instead of what might be the easiest possible solution, you could go to what might be the most outrageous possible solution, what might be the quickest possible solution. So just change a word. Okay, here's another couple of questions. 10 of spades. Okay, what are you prepared to sacrifice or do differently in order to achieve your goal? That's really going to test the strength, isn't it? How much do you really want it? What are you willing to let go of in order to get fitter for the new year or whatever? That's really assessing strength and desire. And then similar, right, is about making a public pledge. That could be in a team meeting. It could just be to a friend, all right, and saying, if I don't achieve this, if I don't write my book by this certain date, I will pay the penalty of X, whatever that is for you. Okay, so they're just some thoughts about thinking bolder there. Let's just do a little bit of reflection. Okay, we have covered 9 things in summary here, right? We've looked at the first 3, thinking bigger. We then started to look at thinking better, looking at the results framework to diagnose weaker areas, using it as that diagnostic tool and that probability exercise, but also thinking better by asking better questions around the framework to improve our probability. And then I just shared with you briefly that technique, the Jack of Diamonds, about turning a problem statement into a helpful question. Which of those is the most helpful takeaway for you? Number 4, 5, or 6? Just put a number in the chat. And when you've done that, just look at the next one there about thinking bolder. Which is your most helpful takeaway from today? Is it about suspending logic by a what if I did? Or is it about asking bolder questions? Okay. Or is it about thinking about the strength of your reason why and making that public pledge? Okay. What might work best for you on that? So 4, 5, or 6, 7, 8, 9. Let's see if there's any trends coming in. 6, 5, 6, 7, 9, 6, 5, 2. We've already covered 2. That's at 7, 9, 9, 5, 7. And they're coming in fast now. So there's a lot of 9s in there and a lot of 6s, I think. And actually, what's interesting psychologically is that 6s and 9s are the last in that section. And people do tend to pick the last things on a list. It's just like if you're watching and voting on a TV show, the last act gets more votes. This is why it's sometimes rigged, because it's the last thing in your memory, the last thing that you saw, the last thing you heard. So just watch out for that. Bit of an influencing technique as well. Okay, right. We've only got a few minutes to go. We're into question and answer sessions. What questions have you got for me about anything that we have covered here? Anything you want to know about thinking bigger, better, bolder, those 2 frameworks about success methodology? While you're putting in any questions, we're going to, I know what we're going to do. I'm just going to share a couple of things with you. We have a place left on this program in January. If anybody wants a place on that program, I can do it for half price. That's just 24th of January. We have 1 place left. But the real thing is we're going to give a prize away about our digital courses, and we're going to win one of those. So I need you to pick a number between, how many people have we got on today? We've got just over 60. So pick a number between 1 and 60. Please type it in, and the first number on here. Okay, stop. It was Margaret who said 59. Thanks. Jade, can you count down? Jade behind the scenes is going to count down the 59th, right, thing that was typed in today in all the responses. Whoever gets that will win one of these courses. And the one that we're giving away today is, let me just see. Here we go. Stretch, thinking bigger, better, bolder. Okay, that's the one that we're giving away today. You will win that 4-hour course. And it covers actually a lot of what we've done today, but there's videos in it, and you can spend 3 or 4 hours. This is our most popular digital program. So while Jane's doing that, I'm conscious I've got 3 questions in front of me here that I'm not going to have time to answer, but for Steve, Jonathan, and I'm not sure how you pronounce that name. I think it's Pravada. I apologize if I've got your name wrong there. I will send you a personalized email response to that. If there's any more questions, please type them in now, and I will answer those. Then we'll wait for our response, and we'll be out of here. Oh, one thing, by the way, as a freebie, I don't know if we've got a slide on this. Let me just see if we put it in at the end. Yes. Download, here's a free gift for you, Thinking for Good app. Go onto Google Store, whatever. We developed this for the NHS last year and the year before, and it's got loads of great free content. Have it for yourself, share it with friends, family, and colleagues to help them think bigger, better, bolder. Right, time to draw the winner. Jade, who is the winner? The winner of our Stretch Digital course is Steve Camish from Photech Solutions. Well done, Steve. Okay, one of the team will be in touch for that and help you with it. So please leave me some feedback. If there's anything that you want to know, please put it in. A big thank you for me. We'll be running this session again in February and March. We run one of these every month. So if you've got colleagues that you want to get an intro to it, put them on. Jade will send you the details. Okay. If there's any feedback for me, please put it back in there now. I will stay on for another 15 seconds or so, just in case anything really urgent comes in. And I'd just like to say, hey, thanks for being here. Focus on what you want this year. Make 2022 a really great year. Think bigger, think better, think bolder. Turn that thinking into action plans, measure the results, get in touch with you, you need any help, and we'll be there to help you. Okay, thank you, Michael, for your comments there. That's great. Thanks, Steve. Yeah, Steve, I knew the name. I thought it might have been you, but you've moved roles. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Catherine. That's great. Debbie, glad that you've got thoughts for your projects and that. Look at the courses, that's great. Another question just coming from Charlotte. Oh, can I go? Oh, I'm going to answer this one for you, Charlotte. Can the framework be applied at any stage in a project? Yes, it can. It can be used as a diagnostic. So you can think of a project that you've got on at the moment, right? And you could look at that framework and go, which bits do I need to do more of? Do I need to get clarity of goal? Do I need to involve others more? Do I need to do some more possibility thinking? And that's the way to use it as a diagnostic tool, a bit like we did in the probability exercise. If you're overwhelmed in a project, you can feel that you should get on with it, but is using the framework as diagnostic going to be worth the time? Well, yes. It will be worth the time, because you can stop bits of the project and ask better questions to focus people on that. No, don't wait until the end of the project. If a project is off track, it will be off track because one or several of those 7 key principles are not being applied as well as it could. What's good practice at the end of a project, of course, is to review it and say, what can we learn? Let's look at those 7 key principles. What could we do more of next time on that? So hopefully that'll help. Any more help, just shout. Okay, great. I've got to go, folks. I'm running another session for a client in an hour's, less than an hour's time. I want to have something to eat. So make 2022 a great one. Stay safe. Take care. Cheers.